Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
I'm a mess. For those of you who listened to last week's episodes where my brain stopped working and I didn't sound okay, it's because I was getting COVID.
Where did you get it from?
I have there's no telling. Probably the train. Who knows? There's like a gazillions of peoples on the train.
Yeah, that's fair.
I truly have no idea.
But it wasn't like in your office. Like nobody else at work had it, right?
No, nobody else is there. Nobody else is there.
Oh, that's right.
But like the next morning after we all spoke, I woke up and I thought I was dying, but I was like, it's just a migraine because I'm in a new place, like totally fine. Made it through the day, barely. Got home, and then I was like, I have 100-degree fever, and I don't really get fever. I was like, I'm probably fine. I'm just gonna not go to work tomorrow. I didn't have fever again, so I did go in Friday morning. But there was, again, no one there. I sat in the back by myself, which is the only reason I went in. And it was a half day. And then I went home and took a COVID test, and it was super positive. So I've been dying for 4 days. But otherwise, I'm like, okay. So how are you?
I also had a rough week. It was not quite that. But when we last spoke, it was last Monday. And my car was in the
Tuesday.
shop. Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Why did we not record on Monday last week? Oh, because I couldn't. You had your apartment stuff and I was helping my grandma. Right. So it's Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to get my car back on Tuesday, and I did not. But then I finally got it back on Wednesday. Everything was fine. And when I turned it on Wednesday when I got it back, the light that was like AC turned off, engine overheating, like blinked, but then it didn't stay on. And I was like, oh, they must have just forgotten to reset the sensor when they fixed everything. I don't have time to deal with this right now. So then I didn't. And then Thursday I was super busy also, and Dan drove everywhere for everything we did Thursday, so didn't really think about it. So then Friday I was driving and the sensor popped back up again, and I was like, oh, okay, I definitely need to get this checked out. But my grandma had gotten to town Thursday night, so I was like, I need to go take care of my grandma. I will figure out when I have time, maybe Saturday, to run over to the shop and just have them reset the sensor. And then I'd been driving for 20 minutes, and the temperature gauge on my dashboard still said C, which I don't know if you know, but the engine, when it's 80 degrees and you've been driving for 20 minutes, is not still cold. That's not a thing that's physically possible. And then that engine overheating light came back on, and then my check engine light just went on. My car had only been out of the shop for 2 days.
But is this the situation that they were like, if this comes up, we'll check it because we're not going to do it today?
Well, that's what I was afraid of. But my air wasn't as cold as it usually was, but I was just thinking it was because it was a fucking 100 degrees.
Sure.
So I called my mom. I was like, hey, just, I'm going to double check on grandma, but also I'm going to call Luke and see what the fuck happened to my car. So I called the shop, and Luke was off on Friday, but Chris, the owner, was like, come in, don't even have to drop it off, just come in, let me look at it. I was like, okay. So we looked at it. What happened was the water tank that they had just replaced had a faulty seal. So the computer wasn't recognizing any pressure. So it didn't know which thing was going on. Like everything was running. I could have kept driving forever with nothing like happening to my car, except that the computer sensors didn't know if the engine was overheating or frozen. Like they could not figure out what was happening. So Chris just ordered the new seal, replaced it, didn't charge me anything, and told me to have a good day. And then I turned the car back on, and the air conditioning was like actually cold. And I was like, huh, wow.
That's good. At least it was like just like a essentially cosmetic issue. It wasn't like an actual issue.
And it was fine, and it was fixed, and But let me tell you, when you get your car back on a Wednesday and you drop $1,500 on it, and then it's the engine light goes on Friday, that's not a good time. No, no, no.
No, it's not.
Especially, have you seen car prices?
I'm not even looking. I
Yeah.
refuse to look.
No, 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 no. I'd rather pay for a whole human child than a car right now.
Oh, I wouldn't. It doesn't matter what the prices are. I do not want to do that. No, thank you. I'll
Do you
walk.
know
I don't care if it's from one side of the country to another. I will just walk.
with a child or
No child. That's the whole point. Instead of buying the car, I would walk if I couldn't afford it before I would pay for a whole price of a child.
do you know what I would pay a lot of money for?
To feel spiritually well.
To feel spiritually well, yeah. That's exactly. I mean, probably not that much money because I don't have a therapist, but like imaginary money.
Sure. We would all pay imaginary money for that. I'm trying to remember which one I read last week, so I don't read it again. Wait, I think it was this one. Okay. Strong women never give up. We might need a coffee, a cry, or a day in bed, but we always come back stronger.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes all of the above.
I haven't had a good just like day in bed and done absolutely nothing in a very long
Do you
time.
want to come visit me? I've had 3 now.
I mean, let's be fair, I haven't really done anything for the entire summer, but somehow I've always had to be moving to do that.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd call it good days in bed, but I've had
Right.
days in bed.
Right. No, no, no. You were like bedridden accidentally.
Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, I was bedridden.
Yeah. I can't think of a single way to segue today. I usually am really quick with that. I got nothing this time.
That's
So
okay.
we're just gonna get right into this week's episode of Stargate SG-1.
Perfect.
We're talking about season 4, episode 4, and it is called Crossroads. It
I didn't even look at the title. I just realized the title
came out on July 21st, 2000. And it was rated 7.2 stars. Which I
is
think,
like 10 points lower than last week, right?
Right. I'm totally for it fair, like for it being under 8. But 7.2 is unnecessarily low.
I agree.
The number 1 song that day was Bent by Matchbox 20.
Love
Matchbox 20. The number 1 book was still the same, Danielle Steele book. The number 1 movie was one of my favorite thrillers, What Lies Beneath.
That's the one I still haven't watched, but I went past it the other day. It's on like Netflix or Amazon or something. I was like, I'm gonna watch this soon because Mary Kate loves it. That's my whole thought process.
Yes, it is. So I won't talk about the plot because Courtney's gonna watch it soon. But it is one of the few.
It's Shyamalan, right?
Is it?
I don't know. I feel like you tell me that it is. I feel like that's when we talked about it.
I don't remember. I don't think it is. No, it's Robert Zemeckis that we did, but we did talk about it because we were talking about Robert Zemeckis one day, and I can't remember what for.
That's fair.
But I'm a big Zemeckis fan. He did Back to the Future and Castaway, and like basically I realized I like a lot of his movies. But it is Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer, and it is it's like one of the horror movies that I watched before I liked horror movies and still loved it.
It's the counterpart to my hide and seek.
Yeah. The I spent a really long time looking for news because I couldn't find anything that happened. Like, even I made Dan Google July 21st, 2000, and just start reading me headlines until I could find something that I wanted to talk about. But then I did. And I found something that is not relevant to anything that we normally talk about, except for the fact that I often go on tangents about this. And it is about the how little respect Asian Americans get in this country sometimes. And on this day, July 21st, 2000, please remember that. That is only 23 years ago. The first Asian American man was nominated by the Senate to be part of the cabinet. First time since what year did this country start having a presidential cabinet? Anyway.
That tracks.
Right. So that man was Norman Mineta. He was the transportation secretary through, obviously starting in 2000, so through the remainder of Bill Clinton's presidency and George Bush's. George W. He stayed on. He was bipartisan. It was lovely. Which means that he was the transportation secretary during 9/11, which this man, when 9/11 happened and the director of the FAA said that they were going to have planes come down at pilot discretion, Norman Mineta on record said, "Fuck pilot discretion, get those goddamn planes out of the air."
Yep.
And so all of my respect for him is all the way up there.
Sure. Yeah.
He also, the airport in San Jose, California, is the San Jose Mineta International Airport, named for him. He did unfortunately die in 2022 of a heart ailment, but he was a solid 90 years old when that happened.
Well, it happens. It happens at 90.
So, yes. So my only news about this day is my spotlight on Norman Mineta and Asian American representation in politics and entertainment and everywhere. So
in all the places.
All of the places. Yeah. So that is that day. This episode was directed by Peter DeLuise, written by Catherine Powers, and edited by Rick Martin.
Besties.
So our guest star is named Musetta Vander, and she is known for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and...
Was that one of the early ones?
Yes. It was in the 90s, I think.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah, and Wild Wild West.
So aside from Wild Wild West, I watched the other two of those films a lot.
She is actually Dutch South African. And fun thing about SA that people don't know often is that they didn't have television until the 70s.
Interesting.
So she did not start her performance career in TV because it didn't exist in South Africa. But her father was a ballet teacher. And so she was performing from the time she was young. She started, once there was TV in South Africa, she started working on this like MTV-esque talk show thing. And then this guy saw her and decided he wanted to marry her and bring her to America and make her famous. So she came to America and she was acting for a while. But now she is divorced from him and married to a South African and back in South Africa and doing mostly stage work, but some film, but only in South Africa. Yeah. She obviously played Shannock, because the other guest star was Anise, who was our guest star last week. So,
unless you count the guy that is the new girl,
Teal'c.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
It's okay.
So I feel like we're gonna come back to him though.
the gate activates, and Braytak's gate code comes through. So they open the iris, and the person who comes through is clearly not Braytak. As noted by the very ridiculous comments Jack makes to her.
Which made me really sad because I realized that we haven't seen him after the season. Obviously, it's very new season. But I never read the description because I don't want to give anything away. But I couldn't remember what episode we were on, so I read the description. And I was like, we're going to get Braytek this episode. And then we didn't.
We did not, no.
Bummed.
But her name is Shanna, and Braytek sent her through because there's unrest, and she has something that she needs to share with them. So he couldn't bring her himself because he was dealing with whatever's happening on Teal'c. She and Teal'c have a very intense moment.
Yeah.
And Jack awkwardly asks for introductions, and she's like, oh, I don't need them. I know who all of you are. And she was like, you're Teal'c's apprentice.
That was my favorite.
My favorite was when she said, and you are Hammond of Texas, the leader of all of the people of Earth. I was like, honestly,
kind of.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
She wants to be taken to the Tok'ra to give them information about just destroying the Goa'uld. And they were like, what do you mean? And she's like, I've been able to communicate with my symbiote and learn through a deep Kelnorine. And what does that even say? Oh, she learned how to communicate with her symbiote through a deep Kelnorine. And she believes that they were told, and Teal'c's like, Jaffa can't communicate with their symbiote. Like, that's not a thing. She goes, we were told that because the Goa'uld didn't want us influencing the young symbiotes. And she's like, I've convinced my symbiote that the Goa'uld are evil, and it has agreed to give the knowledge to the Tok'ra, but it can't communicate in words without a host, and it will only take one willingly. But also, it's fully developed and needs a host ASAP Rocky, or I might die.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
The Tok'ra communicate with their Goa'uld or their symbiote.
Yes.
And the Jaffa cannot for what purpose? Like,
so because the Jaffa, the symbiotes that are the symbiotes that are inside the Tok'ra are connected to their brain stem the way that any Goa'uld that is. But the Jaffa, it's just that like kangaroo pouch in their belly. It's basically basically like a baby in utero, where it's not like on the same nervous system. It's just, yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is how they get that weird thing that Dr. Fraser and Hammond start explaining about internal organs and immune system and stuff passing through, but not, Sometimes when people talk medical science, I pretend I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. I don't know what they're talking about either.
Sometimes when they talk medical science, I just zone out.
That happened literally the other day. I was talking to Dan's sister, and she said something about a medication that she was on, and I go, I don't know what any of those words mean. I'm gonna be honest with you. She's like, but you know so much. I go, about medicine.
That's not the one, though. Yeah.
So we have this problem, and she's like, okay, now you know everything. Take me to the Tok'ra. And Hammond's like, no, not gonna do that. And then Teal'c, of all people, this reaction I did not expect to come from Teal'c, but he is like, I don't believe you. You're a liar.
I know, and I'm like, this is your bestie. Like, you clearly have some kind of situation with this person.
And he's like, we can't trust you.
Yeah.
But then her symbiote starts to rip out of her stomach alien style, which is weird because I was just talking about the movie Alien yesterday. And she somehow like commands it back into her.
Yeah, But it doesn't look as gross as it used to, so I'm okay with its existence. I mean, like,
Yeah.
not in the sense of that it's trying to take over the world, but like,
Right.
I don't mind visually seeing
Yeah,
it
the
more.
CGI of the gold itself has definitely improved with time.
Yeah.
It's still disgusting.
Yeah, but it's not in the same way. Not
Yeah.
in the same way.
Dr. Fraser takes her to the infirmary and she suggests quarantine because the host is going to need to escape soon and she can't guarantee it won't just like pop out and take somebody in the base. But then Shauna wakes up, even though she's been sedated, and she says that her symbiote neutralized it. And then she says, what's to me the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in the entire show. And I know that that's wrong. Like, I know that somehow being I know that being as disturbed by this particular like quote is very much not the hill I should be dying on. But she calls the symbiote child.
Yeah.
And then Teal'c's like, why? And she's like, well, I've carried
like,
it
absolutely
in me.
not.
She's like, I've carried it in me like a child and taught it right from wrong. It is my child. And I was like,
She's not super wrong.
no, but that
fair.
doesn't make it that just because she's right doesn't make it not disgusting.
No, yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not my favorite thing that she does. But
And Teal'c's like mad freaked out and she's judging him and she's like, I thought you'd be more open-minded. And he's like, bitch, you thought wrong. Yeah. Sometimes I just wish, like, I love Teal'c's stoicism all of the time, but occasionally I just want him to say what he's actually thinking because people need to hear it.
And I don't know, but I'm concerned he couldn't like articulate it correctly because he's so like specific that it wouldn't come off in the way that I'd want it to. Like, I want him to sound very like, I don't know, like offended and like more emotional. I want to hear his emotion behind it, and he is not going to have emotion behind it.
Right. Yeah. But he's like, okay, can we speak alone? So everybody goes out and leaves them alone. And she's like, I don't understand why you don't believe me. He's like, you literally chose to become a priestess and dedicate your life to Apophis. Why for a second do I think that you would be telling me the truth right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, here is a thing that is kind of implied but not really said. Jaffa, like the Jaffa warriors, the like Teal'c, they are chosen based on which kids are the strongest, which their abilities. They don't have a choice. Granted, they live in a society where that is an honor.
Yeah.
But they are not, it's not like, do you want to become a farmer or a first prime? Like, that's not a thing. Whereas women do have a choice. They can choose to get married and mother and give birth to more babies that could eventually serve, or they can choose to basically become nuns of the church of these gods. And Shanak chose to become a priestess, which we also know that not only was she voluntarily attached to Apophis, it also means that she chose to not marry Teal'c.
Yeah.
So that's like 2 strikes.
Yeah. And like the fact that she came from Talk makes it seem a little better. But like, I agree. I also did not trust her, no matter what she said in the beginning.
Which I love. Because I was watching this with Dan, so I kept pausing it and being like, what do you think's going to happen? And he was like, well, somebody's going to get double crossed. And I go, interesting. But I think he also, like you, thought it was coming from Shinnok that the double crossing was, because they kind of dig into that. So he's like, I don't believe you. Like, so she tells him all the details about what happened and how this messages came through and how it all worked and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, why would I believe you? She's like, because Braytok does. And he's like, I don't know if that's enough.
Yeah. Well, like, I think that's enough, but also, like, how do you know? Like, you know that Braytok sent her over here, but you don't know anything else, or you don't know if, like, she tortured him to get the code, or, like, whatever. Like,
but also, like, Braytok does believe the best in people. And we saw what happened last time he fully trusted Braytok to watch out for someone that he loved. His wife married someone else who was trying to find him. And then, like, a lot of people died. So, I understand his hesitation. While Braytok absolutely is the most kind-hearted, like, leader and teacher, that kind-hearted thing might get slightly in the way occasionally.
Yeah, emotions, pesky things.
So we go to Sam and Daniel, who are doing some research, and they think that if she's telling the truth, it would be, like, the most helpful thing to the Chokra, since they left the Goa'uld gene pool, like, 2,000 years ago, and despite, like, spies and some genetic code that's the same, they don't have all the information on Goa'uld and their technology and everything, because they are separated. And Jack's like, I think there's more to the story. And they were like, what do you mean? And he's like, y'all were not in the gate room when she got here. And it was so spicy, I was sweating.
Verbatim.
Yeah. So he thinks that Teal'c's history might be slightly clouding his judgment, but he also knows that if Teal'c doesn't trust her, he doesn't trust her, because that is the...
Right. Well, he's his apprentice, so...
Yes.
You know.
Which he then makes very clear in the next moment when Teal'c arrives and asks him for help, and he says, yes, master, whatever you need.
Right.
So the three of them go with Teal'c, and he goes into Kelnorine and is like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to communicate, and I need you guys to stay here in case it does not go well. And it doesn't go well, actually. He does achieve a connection with his symbiote, but the symbiote shows him a vision of when Kronos killed his father. So, like, that's cute.
Yeah. Pretty, a little dark.
Right. And they're like, why do you think the symbiote showed you that? And he's like, to let me know he hates me.
I mean, yeah. That's what I would show someone if I hated them, too. So, like, fair.
Like, remember that time I killed your dad? Joke's on you.
What would a symbiote show you if it hated you?
Well, I guess it depends. Because I feel like emotionally, probably, like, the worst thing that I could think of is, like, the night my grandpa died. But also, it depends on, like, what the particular, like, bad guy was particularly responsible for. Because, like, it wasn't just, like, Teal'c losing his dad. It was the Goa'uld killing his dad.
Yeah.
So it was, like, hate and power.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah. So it would depend on what they were responsible for. But, like, if it was just, like, all over, like, make me feel horrible, probably, like, the night my grandpa died.
Yeah.
It's, like, not a fun memory to live in.
I get that. Death is probably the one that it would shower a lot of people.
Yeah. Or the dream I had the other night.
I think a symbiote was responsible for that dream.
Probably. I didn't sleep well, and Dan was asking me why I didn't sleep, like what happened. And I was like, I just had really weird dreams. And he was like, about what? And I go, well, I had a bunch of children, like small children, in an elevator in a building that was under construction, and one of them ran away and fell whoop, right down the crack all the way to the bottom.
This is not even the one I thought you were talking about.
No, that was like the other night. I just literally had a dream that I like let a child run out of an elevator, that I took them in a building that was under construction.
That's
To
what
be fair, in my dream, they also lived in that building, and I was like taking them to their apartment, like to meet with their family. I wish I knew what I had to eat before I went to sleep that night. So
I think you and Rachel were in the same universe for her last dream that I'm going to write about also. So
I would like to know what I had so that I never have that again.
Yeah.
Because
if you did drugs, I would say drugs. But since I know that's not it.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
But yeah, maybe that. Just like that image of the child falling out of the elevator. Especially because like I came up with that one on my own. Like somewhere in this fucked out mind, that image came to me.
You have a secret symbiote in you. That's why you love Stargate so much. The goal is coming through our podcast to take over the world.
It's the story of my people.
Exactly.
But Teal'c is like, Shanak is telling the truth. She must be. She was able to communicate with her symbiote, which is kind of a rapid conclusion to jump to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also I kind of got it. So then they meet with our favorite Tok'ra, Anise. And she is like talking about the Roman goddess who spawned the Tok'ra movement and that Ra killed, and how all of these facts that Sam and Daniel already told us are true. And she's like, well, the thing is, the Tok'ra's numbers are dwindling since they don't have as many willing hosts, and they won't like take anyone by force. So Chanak's offer is provocative. We would like that, but I will have to take it to the High Council and see if this is a thing we can do. And they're like, okay, just so you know, time is very limited. Like, okay. And Teal'c explains that he doesn't really want her to die. Like, that's... So he's like...
Yeah, which is fair. Like...
He was like, if it's possible, can we maybe find another symbiote for her? And Anise is like, I make no promises, but I will see what I can do.
And he's the destroyer of the world, but like in a good way.
Yes. Teal'c goes to Shanak and tells her that the Tok'ra are considering her offer, and she is in more pain. And she tells him this very beautiful story about how he is revered by the people on Teal'c, and how he was the thing that inspired her to know that the gold were not gods, and that he was going to, and that she was going to, and she was going to turn away from Apophis. And then she was like, you should come back to Teal'c and help Braytek, because right now he's carrying all of this war on his own shoulders. And Teal'c's like, Teal'c's like, no, they need me here. And she was like, your people need you.
These are my people.
And he is very angry with her. And he's like, he was like, I did not abandon anyone, which is how we know that clearly he was not the one who ended their relationship.
Yep.
And she's like, so when I die, what are you going to do? Are you going to just like let this fall apart? Or are you going to continue trying to communicate with like the symbiotes? And then she's like, what did it show you? And he tells her, and she's like, yeah, it's trying to make you afraid, but it doesn't make sense to me that you're listening and that you are afraid. And then in one of the most melodramatic moments in the show to date, he admits that the thing he's actually afraid of is losing her again. And then they smooch.
Not to mention he has a whole child somewhere that's lost to existence.
Isn't this kid training with Teal'c?
I think so, but like we haven't seen him in ages.
True. You're not wrong.
So like she's the most important thing now. This child that we haven't seen in ages is
No, I don't think he says she's the most important thing. I think it's just in this moment he knows that she might die again and he's going to have to watch her like leave him a second time.
Mhm.
And it is like a big emotional dagger.
Yeah.
And yeah, that close up of them kissing was like a sloppy big ol' smooch.
No Stargate.
It was funny. Doug asked what episode we were on, and I told him, and he goes, yeah, she really doesn't know how to write romantic relationships. Really, it's goals, so I get it. But
yeah, it's fine.
So then we cut to the next morning, where Teal'c is walking down the hallway, clearly post-coital. I have not seen that man smile that way
Ever.
in 4 seasons. Yeah. And so Daniel's talking to him, and Daniel's like, hey, buddy, you know, you can talk to me. And Joe's like, yeah, I think I really need to help Shanak teach more Jaffa to do this.
Shocking that is now the result.
Right.
Shocking.
It's like the last time somebody made this rash of a decision was when Daniel screwed someone. So like if anybody knows what's going on right now, it's Daniel.
True. Yeah.
And then Sam arrives and is like, the Toker have accepted the offer. And he's like, okay, when can we leave? And she's like, right now. So they go to the Toker camp, and Anise and Freya both welcome them because Jack only wants to talk to Freya because he hates Anise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Freya says that they were able to find a new symbiote, and they meet the new host, but it's like way too close to the moment of sudden death. And Tanith like jumps violently out and right into the guy's throat.
Yeah, it's like insane. And we like see blood. We don't normally see blood like that, right? Like
they normally, when Gaul do it asked for, they do it in the back of the head. Right. So hair usually blocks whatever blood we could potentially see. And like the Toker usually do that whole ceremony where it's like way more gentle and whatever. But this thing was just like right for the jugular.
Yeah, it was.
Dan was
very
like,
exciting.
And I was like, do they usually do it like that? I was like, oh,
no,
that's not
normal.
No. But he comes to and he pledges his allegiance to the Tok'ra. And they do, in fact, have a new symbiote for Shanak, but it is very, very young. And so she is very, very weak. But they're going to survive. And it seems like this is a big happy ending. But there's But there's 10 minutes left in the episode, so oops.
Yeah.
Anise tells them that Tanith has pledged his allegiance to the Tok'ra, not the SGC, so they will get the information and decide what to share with SG-1 when they feel like it.
Yeah.
So, who wants to guess who didn't take that news very well?
And like, I get it. I think if I brought someone to you and was like, here is what you've asked for, we're helping you. Now you help us. 'Cause we're not asking for everything. We're just asking for this one person. Which was a lot. But like,
And like, granted, what Tanith could share could be like a lot. But also, we brought him to you.
and also
We
like, I feel like SGC are the ones like actively attacking the Goa'uld. Like the Toker are like planning and they're like doing it when it needs to be done, but I feel like SGC is going out more actively.
Yeah, like didn't just last week you show up and need us to do the work for you?
Right? Yeah. That's what I'm hearing.
And so Jack in his anger is like, Teal'c, you know what? You can come back and visit Shamak when you want, like when we're done with the debrief, but we gotta go before I shoot somebody.
Yeah.
And so Teal'c and Shamak have a moment alone, and he tells her that when he goes back, he's gonna tell them that he is going to leave the SGC and come back to Chulak and teach all the Jaffa.
Dun dun dun.
And up until this point, you still very much believe that Shamak is going to be the one who's lying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Shanak goes to speak with Tanith.
Which even then, I was like, she's going to talk to him because she's like starting this whole coup within the Toker.
And he's like, oh, I'm so glad you came to talk. I wanted to ask you how you had the audacity to think that you could talk to me and tell me what to do when I am your god.
Yeah. That's no good.
Oops. And then he attacks her. Ew.
Yeah. And kills her.
Meanwhile, Teal'c is tendering his resignation and telling them his plan. And Jack's like, you just mean like for like a leave of absence. He's like, no, I know what I mean. I mean, I need to go do this. It's something only I can do, and it will help save the world. Like, duh. Then the gate activates. And what is about to come through the gate is very questionable. You don't know. You don't know. Maybe it is Tanith has the Toker code and is going to kill everybody. You don't know. But it is Anise. She's coming through the gate to give Teal'c Shannak's body. But she blames her death on them waiting too long to remove the symbiote.
Yeah.
So Teal'c, in order to heal his pain, goes back into Kelmarine and has the same vision of his dad's death again, and then realizes that that's the exact same way that Shannak died.
Yep.
So,
oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah. So, Teal'c and Jack return to Tok'ra, and they're like, this is what really happened. And she's like, so why are you here for revenge? And he's like, yeah, I'm fucking here for revenge. And then he starts just like fighting his way through the whole settlement and trying to throw everybody down. And they finally like stop him. And Anise is like, can you calm the fuck down? We already know. Jack's like, I'm sorry, who? You already what?
Yeah.
And she's like, if he believes that we don't know, we can give him only the information that is necessary to trick him and use him being a spy against them instead of against us.
Yep.
So he is going to be used as a weapon of disinformation. And then, but Teal'c wants to see him one time before they leave. So Tanith and Teal'c have the most passive-aggressive standoff.
The most passive aggressive.
And I just want to take a moment to talk about the beauty that is Christopher Judge's silent acting. Because in this whole show, Teal'c has always been like the silent powerhouse, and we have always been impressed with that. But this scene and every moment of his face in the scene, down to like the pulsing in his neck muscle, is gorgeous.
It's such
gorgeous. Like, I'm so glad that this is the last episode that I watch before I'm going to meet him, because I'm just going to die.
You are. Yeah.
But in their passive-aggressive standoff, Teal'c promises that he will meet Tanith again.
I mean, yeah. Obviously.
So,
yeah.
There's no trivia for this episode.
Of course.
Except for the one goof of the fact that the Goa'uld alien style rips through her shirt, and the next time we see her, there's no longer a hole in her shirt. Which I like saw that and I go, okay. And then I like saw the scene and I go, oh no, that's like an obvious they fucked that one up. Well, because usually when it's like clothing errors, I'm just like,
yeah.
But that one was glaring.
Pretty obvious, yeah.
I do have just like a random trivia fact about SG-1 as a whole, or about, SG-1 as a whole, because Dan and I were watching it today, and I had paused it at one point to take a note, and the pause screen was just like a close-up of the side of Jack's head. And Dan was like, has he always been that gray? I don't remember his hair just being that gray. So I was like, I feel like it has. So I did some digging. And actually, and I'm surprised we didn't notice this at the time, there's a moment in the middle of season 2 when his hair just suddenly becomes real fucking gray. And what had happened was Richard Dean Anderson was like slowly going gray. And he decided that for cosmetic upkeep purposes, it was easier to just go gray than try to get rid of the gray. So he said, fuck it.
Fair.
So yeah. It is not his natural gray hair, but it is not a character thing. It's just a Richard Dean Anderson was like, I don't want to deal with this. He was like, I'm too old for this shit.
Yep. Get that.
So, who do you want to punch?
Oh, I mean, Tan. My God.
Yeah.
No question.
I'm going to have to go with Anise. Because, like, the least she could have done is when they were at SGC with Shannok's body and not in the presence of Tanith, fucking told them.
Yeah. I'm feeling questionably towards her. I understand she's technically on the right side of things, but
it's fair.
It's
fair.
So it's fine.
Who's your MVP?
Teal'c.
Fantastic. I'm gonna have to give it to Shannok, because while she was not successful, she really fucking thought she did something. Like, she tried so hard to change the world.
I know, bless her heart. She did try so hard, and she ended up on the right side of things in the end.
Yeah.
So good for her.
Yeah.
Bless her heart. But good for her.
I mean, I guess there's not well, I don't usually ask for predictions because the episodes are so scattered.
Yeah.
Um, and you did already predict that we will probably see Tanith again, but
Yeah.
asking you when you think that might happen is a funny, funny
In
story.
7 years. No,
Um,
I think he'll come back in like a couple episodes, maybe like 3 or 4. I think next episode's gonna be something wildly like off the cuff because
well,
we were together in these
I
last two
will tell
episodes.
you that you are incorrect, and that next week we are
Oh,
still on the Tok'ra train.
interesting. Okay, okay, season 4. We're being consistent. I like it. I like it.
Like to the point where my Amazon started auto playing, and I was confused because the first shot was of the Tok'ra planet, and I thought I somehow played the episode over again. And then I like paused it and I looked at what episode it was. I go, oh, okay, yeah, no, cool. Yeah, so we're just like still fully on the Tok'ra train next week.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
Um, so yeah, I had to explain. Oh, I had to explain to Monica and Dan why Shannok's mark was so different than Teal'c's. Um,
Why is it? Is it because she's a priestess?
yeah, she's a priestess, so it's a choice, and so it's a paint
Mm-hmm.
like of the gold on their face because
Yeah,
it's not they're not like I was like, yeah, if somebody like voluntarily chooses and doesn't need to know what war feels like, you're not gonna burn molten gold into their
sure.
forehead.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And and Monica goes, oh, that makes sense, but also his looks better. It's like,
Well,
yes.
you know,
Um,
it's fine.
so yeah, if you have questions, concerns, stories about having met any of these people that I am like geeking out about meeting this year, please email us at deafandaliens@gmail.com. You can follow me, no, us, both of us, that's we're together, on the social medias at Death and Aliens. And I swear one of these days I will actually get my pictures of all of these meet and greets up on the internet. That'd be nice.
Sure, sure.
And if you want to follow me, you can do that at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And we will see you all next week.
Yeah, it just like went out last second. I cannot hear you. Your mic is completely off. Oh, wait.
No,
Oh, now you're
is
back.
it? Okay. Yeah, it cut out literally as I was trying to sign off because why the fuck
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
absolutely.
We will see you all on Thursday for probably the tamest episode of Thriller Thursday we've had in a little bit. See you then.
See ya.
Bye.